The FAA is under increasing pressure to ground Boeing's top-selling passenger plane after the deadly crash in Ethiopia. More than 100 737 MAX series planes are still flying in North America. The U.S. and Canada are the only two major countries allowing the planes to continue operating. The only two major countries. At least 39 nations, including European Union countries, grounded MAX planes. Airlines in at least 6 other countries and territories have also done so. Investigators are still trying to determine the cause of Sunday's crash that killed 157 people, including 8 Americans. It was the second deadly accident involving a 737 MAX in 5 months. Kris Van Cleave is at Washington's Reagan National Airport with the safety debate. Kris, good morning.
Good morning. The FAA says it has no basis to justify grounding the 737 MAX at this point, but it's important to note the agency has no information from Flight 302's black boxes. 2 senior Trump administration officials tell CBS News the White House sees no benefit to interfering or second-guessing the FAA, fearing a rush to judgment could do more harm than good.
I'm advising members of my own family and friends they ought to change planes.
On Capitol Hill Tuesday, the list of lawmakers on both sides calling for the FAA to ground the Boeing 737 MAX grew to more than 10, among them Senator Mitt Romney.
It makes sense to ground an aircraft that's been involved in 2 very tragic accidents in only 6 months.
Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao says her department, which oversees the FAA, is working closely with the National Transportation Safety Board and Ethiopian investigators to determine the cause of Sunday's crash of Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. The 737 MAX would be the 4th plane in U.S. history to be grounded by federal regulators. In 2013, the FAA ordered airlines to temporarily stop flying the Boeing 787 due to fire concerns with the plane's batteries.
FAA has probably the most rigorous certification process of any agency.
Former FAA Assistant Administrator Scott Brenner says grounding planes without substantive reason sets a dangerous precedent.
The FAA is saying, we have a system in place, so let's not start changing it just because we have some public pressure going against us.
CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg says it's a difficult balance for the FAA.
The FAA has always had a conflict. When they were established by an act of Congress, they were supposed to make and enforce safety policy and then promote the business of aviation. They can't do both.
Now, Boeing CEO had a call with President Trump yesterday where he says he remains confident in the safety of the 737 MAX airplanes. We are aware of at least 5 anonymous complaints from pilots through a NASA database set up for pilots to report issues where at least 2 cases where you had pilots talk about the autopilot pushing the nose of the MAX down after takeoff. The autopilot is a different system than the one that's being looked at in the Lion Air crash from October. It's also not clear if what happened there were pilot errors, lack of familiarity with a brand new airplane, or something larger. At this point, we do know that the 3 pilots unions at United, American, and Southwest are standing behind the aircraft. So are the airlines, who say they have seen no data whatsoever, anything systemic wrong with the airplane in more than 100,000 hours of flight time. Bianna?
All right, Kris. And just this morning, the Ethiopia Airlines CEO said that the pilot did receive training for the MAX 8 plane. So this story will continue for sure.